Auditing. So the reliability data is influenced by source and the nature, depending on the circumstances under which it's obtained. According to me, that is a relevant criteria which define whether the data is reliable for the purpose of designing subsequent analysis procedure. Why it is relevant data? This question itself has the answers. How so relevant of data influenced by sources, internal source, outside the source, and external source. Okay, and nature how the internal control is being there for this source and dependent on circumstances whether it is arised due to the procedure done by the auditor or due to the auditor expert we got the source or through the internal auditor we got the source. These are some circumstances through which we get the through which we can say it is reliable or not reliable. According to the relevant criteria, determine whether the data is reliable for the purpose of the subsequent events. Why subsequent analytical procedure is required? Because the data which we had, as per the plan, we have conducted the audit. Through the audit, we get some evidence. This evidence is that this evidence what we got, whether it is appropriate, subsequent audit procedure is required or not, we need to take into account. Only after seeing this evidence is enough. If not, we need to perform substantial analytical procedure because if we required some more data, we need to change the plan, increase the sample size, if want to change the audit procedure. These are the things are there. So answer. Analytical procedure is substantial technique which used to initial planning stage of audit during the course of detailed audit work at the part of the completion of audit and reviewing the financial statement. And these are there are relevant criteria determine whether the data is reliable for the purpose of designing substantial analytical procedure. Yes, say 520 analytical procedure. The provided that reliability of a data is influenced by source and nature and dependence on circumstances in which is obtained. Reliability of data as comparable. The source of information available that is more reliable if obtained from the more independent source. The relevant data available. Budget should be realistic. Comparability information available and entitled should be realistic and control over preparation of information. This is internal control who they bought it, so how this data comes to it. These are the information which is there. Mr. Mohan, auditor of KTN Limited, wants to use the work of expert with reference to a standard of auditing. State that the factor which suggests the need to detail a written agreement between auditors and auditor experts. Auditor and experts using the work of auditor. Using the work of auditor expert, XA 620. The auditor expert is is a person who is expert in the field other than accounting and auditing. It is to be appointed by the auditor to get an opinion over and fact. Yes, do they need a written agreement between auditor and auditor expert? Yes. Yes, they need a agreement stating so I'm appointed him. Is that to be relevant for the audit procedure? Yes, it's relevant. As per AC 620, using the work of an auditor expert, some matters noted in the para 8 may affect the level of detail, formality of the agreement between auditor and auditor expert, including whether it is appropriate, the engagement is written, or working the agreement is written. For example, the following factors such as the need to more detailed arrangement than would otherwise the cost. For the arrangement, it is set out in writing. Auditor expert will have access to sensitive and confidential entity information, right? And respective roles and responsibility of the auditors and the auditors expert and different from those normally expected. Multi-judicial legal regulatory requirement apply. The matter to which auditors expert work relates is highly complex. The greater the extent of auditor expert work, the significant the content of the audit. These are the things. With reference to standard of auditing, state the examples of audit estimates and that may have high estimate uncertainty. So, SA 540, accounting of audit, auditing of accounting estimate. Yeah, estimate including fair value accounting estimate. Later disclosure, an auditor shall determine whether the auditor or judgment any of the accounting estimate that have been identified and that have high estimate uncertainty give rise to significant risk. In some of accounting estimate, however, there may be relatively high estimate uncertainty, particularly where there is based on a significant assumption. Example, accounting estimate relating to outcomes of a litigation, contingent liability. The fair value of account estimates are derived of financial instrument not publicly traded shares. The fair value of accounting estimate for which highly specialized entity developed model is used or for which there is an assumption of input that can be observed in a marketplace. The fair value of accounting estimate for which highly specialized entity developed a model is used or for which there is assumption or input that cannot be observed in the marketplace. They developed a model, but it's not been observed in the marketplace. They don't know how it, the model going to work such a way. These are the high risk because valuation risk is there, no? Valuation risk is a high dangerous risk. At the same time, litigation, contingent liability, that is a very dangerous thing. We should take into note of both. Mm, 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 mm. Discuss the relationship between overall audit strategy and audit plan. Relationship between overall audit strategy and audit plan. Audit plan na what? Audit plan na plan or what we going to do, how we going to do, when we going to do, how going to the audit evidence we going to collect, who going to report it, how and in engagement partner, how going to respond to it, and what is the directors or those who charge with governance, how they going to react, and giving an obtaining an evidence and providing opinion. This is the plan. Okay, usually this is the plan. So this is the plan. But second time, audit overall audit strategies. You'll see the audit strategy is prepared before the audit plan. The audit plan contains more details than the overall audit strategy. Audit strategy and audit plans are interrelated because a change in one would result into change in other. An audit strategy provides a guidelines for developing an audit plan. It establishes the scope and conduct of audit procedures and thereby work on basis of developing a detailed audit plan. So here see the overall audit strategy is within the plan. The plan is it is the beginning, it is the plan as a second thing. From this to here it comes. The audit strategy provides a guidelines for developing audit plan and it establishes scope and conduct the audit procedure and thereby the work as basis of the developing of detailed audit plan. A detailed audit plan would include nature, timing, extent of the audit procedure and so obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So the auditor of XY and Co has a interim has auditor of XY and Co has intimated the management that certain misstatements identified during the course of an audit need to be corrected. As the auditor discusses the impact of such misstatement in the case of management does not carry out the correction. So the auditor has found the misstatement, they had reported to the management, they need to change the correction. What to do? Evaluation of misstatement identified during the audit. SA 450. Evaluation of misstatement identified during the audit. It's the responsibility of the auditor to report the misstatement. If the misstatement reported should be documented, and we should wait for a reply for a certain period of time. If if there is the change has been accepted and they have changed the corrected misstatement in the financial statement, then good, Q1 unqualified audit report. If they didn't change the statement and there is no reply regarding it, you just qualify the audit report based upon the materiality of the misstatement. You give rather an adverse report or an unqualified qualified audit report based on the pervasiveness of the situation. Auditor identify misstatement during the audit, and then he shall require to communicate such misstatement to TCWG on the appropriate level of management. Very good. In the present case, auditor XYZ has initiated that management certain misstatement identified during the course of audit need to be corrected. Very good. If the management did not carry out the said correction, the auditor shall require to evaluate the effect of uncorrected misstatement. Mhm. The auditors, prior to evaluation, that the effect of uncorrected misstatement shall reassess materiality, determining the accordance section SA 2 320 to confirm whether the remaining appropriate to content of eligibility entities actual financial result. Auditor prior to evaluation, the effect of uncorrected misstatement shall reassess the materiality, determine the SA 320 to confirm whether the remaining appropriate to context to the entity's actual financial result. Okay. Auditor shall determine whether the uncorrected misstatements are material, individual, or aggregate having regard to the size and nature of the misstatement and effect of uncorrected misstatement and related to the prior period and relevant case of transaction, an account of balances and disclosures and financial statements of auditor shall communicate those charged with governance, uncorrected misstatements, and the effect that say individual or in aggregate may have an opinion in the auditor's result prohibited by law and regulation with the request of uncorrected misstatement be correct. The auditor shall communicate those charged with governance, the effect of uncorrected misstatement related to the prior period on the relevant class of transaction, the account balances and disclosure and financial statement as a whole. Auditor shall request a written representation from the management and who's appropriate those charged with governance whether they believe the effect of uncorrected misstatements are material, individually and aggregate to the financial statements as a whole. Summary of the item shall be included or attached in the written representation. Okay. We need proof now because they are not providing they are not correcting it. So what we should do? We should take some action. Mm. State that may be about state what may be evaluated or review procedure that statutory auditor may do before concluding as to relevance and reasonableness of auditor export work for using the audit procedure. Evaluate and review the procedure of statutory auditor that may do before concluding the relevance and reasonableness of audit export work using for using it for the audit purpose. First point, the auditor export is export other than audit and accounts. Second thing, he is export. We should find whether we should be satisfied through this qualification through his previous achievement. We should find he is an expert. Third thing, appointment letter of the expert. Fourth thing, not only appointment letter of the expert is required, his concern of his result, what is finding, we should see. We should also analyze the finding, whether this finding do we need to give in the audit report. If we going to give in the audit report, we need to get a concern letter from the expert stating, though I am the auditor, I have engaged you for finding this using your expertise in this field, in this firms, and you have agreed on this date, and you have given report on this date. Are you agreeing to publish your name in the audit report? Concern, give your concern over it. If he said okay, you can publish. Such a way he gave the concern, then you can publish in the audit report. No issue. This is the usual procedure you need to follow. Evaluating the review procedure before concluding as to relevant and reasonableness of audit export work using the audit procedures and audit may perform. Inquire the audit export. Review the audit export's working papers and report. Corroborative procedure, just observing the auditor's expert work, examine the published data, just a statistical report from the reportable authority source, confirming the relevant matter to third parties, performing detailed analytical procedure, and reperforming calculation. Discuss with another expert with the relevant expertise when, for example, finding or conclusion of the auditor's expert are not consistent with the other audit evidence. Discuss the audit expert report with the management. Discussing with the managements there, and if the expert work you have a doubt with your family, you can go to another expert also, not an issue. Only thing is, you should, before giving it an audit report, you should go with the management and you can say, my expert is saying this way, your expert is doing this way, there is a data mismatch, please explain. That should be done. A Cineplex is a movie theater complex. It's a foremost theater located in Delhi. Along with the sale of ticket over the counter, online booking, major portion of incomes from cafe, shop, pubs, etc. Located in the complex. It's another income includes advertisement and exhibits. Within outside the perimeter, such as hoarding, bannering, slides, short films, etc. The facility of parking of vehicles also provided for the basement of the premises. Cineplex appointed you as a firm as an auditor of the entity. Being heard of the audit team, you are therefore required to draw an audit program initially in respect of the revenue and expenditure considering the above mentioned fact along with the relevant points and retaining to complex. What do you do? So audit program. First you will see as a company what you will do. You will see memorandum of association. The pursuit of the memorandum of association, article of association. What is the company's rules and what is the MOA say, AOA say, we will see. Second, ensure the object clause permits the entity to engage in type of business. So company has a clause to do the business. If the company permits to do it, you can do. You can't do other than the AOA, MOA. So in the case of income from the sale of tickets, verify the control system as to how we ensure the collection of sale tickets of various shows are properly accounted. Uh, Verify system of related to online booking of various shows and the system of realization of money. Check whether the overall system of reconciliation of collection within the number of seats available different shows on a day. So one thing, we are selling tickets, whether the cash, everything collected for the sale of ticket is matching. Second thing, online we are selling. Someone is selling our ticket and they is getting the money and people are showing the ticket and coming and watching the show and go. After that, we should separate how much is counter sale, what is the online sale, and total seats has been booked, whether this amount we received. Correct now? That's a reconciliation. To do the total reconciliation and you see this amount we have received, this reward we have received, everything for each and every single show, everything which become calculated and need to be accounted. So verify the internal control system and ineffectiveness related to the income from cafe, shop, pubs, etc. located in the multiplex. So if we provide anything, you provide rent or you may have your own shop. We may collect rent, or in the case of we are having our own cafe, what is the business, what is the income, what is the purchase, what is the sale, everything we should see. Verify system of control exercise relating to the income receivables from the advertisement exhibit within the premises and inside the hall such as hoarding, banners, light, short film, etc. Verify system of collection from the parking areas in respect of vehicle parked by its consumers. Hmm. So, so we are getting parking income. Now we go and see how parking income, no, how much income every day we collected, what is the capacity of the parking, how much it can certainly collect, and whether the certainty of the income what it collected and throughout the shows or based upon the traffic, is it appropriate? Yes, it. In the case of the payment to the distributors, verify system of payment which may be either through right payment or percentage of collection or combine of both. Ensure the time of settlement and payment of advance made to the distributor also adjusted against the amount due. Distributor, you need to pay the payment. Distributor na percentage will see or per ticket this much or for 10 days of this much amount you will give. You can show you can distribute the movie for how many days. That's a rule. Or this many days you can run the show. For every ticket we get 40 percentage. That's it. Verify system of payment of salaries and other benefits to the employees and ensure the statutory requirements are compliant with PF, ESA, electricity bill, tax payment, entertainment tax, everything is properly paid or not. Should check. Verify the payments, affect this is respect of the maintenance of the building, ensure the same rent or maintenance expenses. These are the expenses, painting, repairs and work. What how it's capital receipt or revenue receipt, capital expenditure, revenue expenditure. We should see through it. In the case of statutory auditor of EYZ Limited, statutory auditor having determined the work of internal auditor likely to be adequate and purpose of statutory auditor wanted to use the work of internal auditor in respect of physical verification of fixed asset. How should you evaluate the carrying of the specific work done by the internal auditor? Can you use the work of an internal auditor? Yes, you can use the work of an internal auditor, but he can't be a member in an audit team first. Then our internal auditor work, we can using the work of internal, say 620 extend using the work of internal auditor. In order to the external auditor to use the specific work of internal auditor, the external auditor shall evaluate and perform the procedure on the work, determine adequacy for the external auditor purpose. And it's more materialistic work you can't be given to the internal auditor to check because he may give in favor of the management. Mm. The nature, timing, and extent of the audit procedures performed on the specific work of internal auditor will depend on the external auditor's assessment of risk of material misstatement, evaluating of the internal auditor function, and evaluating the specific work of internal auditor. Such audit procedure may include examination of items already examined by the internal auditors, examination of similar items, or observing the procedures performed by the internal auditors. So some works may be like yeah, already internal auditor had the audit. He may ask you give the report what the work you have done. Please provide the report. I added the mentioned points in my audit report and give a questionnaire to the management. That's a way. Such a kind of things. Not new thing he can't be forced to do. To determine the adequacy of specific work performed by the internal auditor for the external auditor purpose, the external auditor shall evaluate whether the work was performed by internal auditor having adequate technical training and proficiency. The work of properly supervised, reviewed, and documented. Adequate audit evidence has been obtained to enable the internal auditor to draw a reasonable conclusion. Yeah, that's a reasonable conclusion to be drawn. Na? The conclusion reached on appropriate circumstances and may report any report prepared by the internal auditors are consistent with the result of an work performed. So he gets everything is correct, sir, everything correct. Na? How much he performed to say this is correct, how much audit sample he took, how he is saying is correct. We should evaluate his work also. Any exception and unusual matters disclosed by the internal auditors are properly resolved or not. That's also been see. B is a principal auditor of ABC Limited. Eight by eight branches audited by eight branch auditors. We want to ensure that the work of a branch auditor was adequate for the purpose of audit. Hence, he insists on the branch auditor to get familiar with the checking list prepared by the branch and besides required him to share the working papers compiled by them for the review and return. A principal auditor within the right to asking for the sharing working paper. So the principal auditor is asking the branch auditor to share his working papers. So he has a right. First point, principal auditor will give an audit report. Branch auditor will give an audit report. Now, who is responsible for the whole audit team is principal auditor. So he can use the work of the branch auditor. He can do another audit. He can do a complementary audit on the branch audit also. At the same time, he may ask of how you come to the conclusion. What is that? If you give some qualified opinion, okay, how you do qualified opinion? What is the point? Why did you qualify the opinion? What are the important points? Please send me the working papers. I will see through it. He can ask. SA 600 using the work of another auditor. When the accounts of the branch is audited by a person other than the company auditor, there need to be clear understanding of the role of such auditor and the company's auditor to relation to the audit of the accounts and the branch on the audit of the company as a whole. The principal auditor should perform procedures to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that the work of the such auditor is adequate for the auditor procedure in the contents of the specific assessment. The principal auditor might discuss with the other auditor the audit procedure applied and review the return summary of the auditor's procedure and finding which may be in the form of completed questionnaire or checklist. The principal auditor may also wish to visit the other auditor. The nature, timing, extent of procedure will depend on the circumstances of the engagement and the principal auditor knowledge and professional competency with the other auditor. Knowledge may have been enhanced from the review of previous audit work, another auditor. In the case of B, the principal auditor ABC Limited and the 8 branches audited by the 8 branch auditor want to ensure that the work of the branch auditors are adequate for the purpose of the audit so that consistent with the branch auditors to get familiar the checklist he prepared for the branches and required him to share the working papers. As above, the principal auditor may prepare checklist and submit it to branch auditor for answers. The principal auditor cannot have access to the work papers of the working papers as a property of the auditor, and he shall not require to disclose it without client's permission as required by law. So here, the principal auditor can get the information by checklist, but he shall not with the right to ask to share the working papers. So auditor working papers is his own working paper. He has no anyone can't ask his working papers. Okay, that's a rule. But in this time, the principal auditor can send to a checklist stating so this is a question. Have you seen this now? Give a comment over it. Have you seen this? Yes or no? Give a comment over it. So every he'll give 100 points and give a comment first. If you write the comments for that, it's most enough. If that comment is required substantial evidence, he can ask, you can share the data. You can just give, but it's not required to share the working papers with any auditors only after getting permission from the client. You can send the working papers. Other than that, you can't share the working papers. Mm. CA Needles has been appointed as an auditor of MS Fabric Limited. In the course of the audit, has been observed that the inventory include work in progress has been evaluated management by using the expert hired by him. Analyze the relevant factors to decide to whether or not to accept the findings in the work of management expert in valuation of inventories. Inventory valuation. So inventory is work in progress been valued by the management by using expert hired by them. So do we need to rely on the work of the management expert? No need, but you can evaluate it as per the audit procedure. You can re-evaluate the work done by the expert because inventory valuation, Nana, it's our accounting policy, no issue. We can value it. After valuing it, if we can how this work is being done, we can check it. It's like using the work of an internal auditor, like this. 6610. In the case, inventory, including the work in progress of MS Fabric Limited, has been valued by the management using its expert. So, CA and auditor of the company shall require to analyze the following factors to decide as to whether or not to accept the finding from the work of the management or expert in valuation of inventory. The nature, scope, and objective of the management expert work. What is the nature, scope, and objective of management expert work? Whether the management expert is employed by the entity or the party engaged by its provide relevant services. Okay, it's a first time or how he is doing the work. Extent to which manager can exercise control or influence over the work of management expert. Is the management expert is an independent or non-independent party? Management experts competent and capability. Do he has the sufficient qualification to do this? He has a degree. How? What is his expert? What is the previous record? That's the thing. Whether the management expert is subject to technical performance standard or professional industry standard. What standard is he using? BAS standards, valuation standards. What he is using? The other controls within the entity over the management experts work. What are the other controls he had? This also we need to check. Mostly we are enquiring over the management and the person who had done the audit, how he is. So we are seeing his quality and his ethics before taking into consideration of the work we have been done. After accepting the statutory auditor of MS All-in-One Limited, the department store has become aware the fact that the management assurance function which may adversely affect the result of your inability to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to discharge your responsibility required by the statute. They indicate that consequence or your response to the limitation imposed by the management on your scope. So they are making some limitation not to do what to do. You can tell to the management, I need to complete the work. There is some disturbances which is not allowing me to do the work. Report to the management. The management take into care and allow you to do your work. Do the work. If not, withdraw from the engagement. It's the best way. Withdraw from your engagement. SA5 modification of opinion by independent audit report. If after accepting the engagement, auditor became aware that management was imposing a limitation on the scope of the audit, that the auditor considers likely to result in the need to express qualified opinion to disclaim an opinion on a financial statement. Auditors require the management to remove the limitation. If the management refuses to remove the limitation, as referred to the above, auditor shall communicate the matter to those charged with governance unless all of those charged with governance are involved in managing entities and determining whether it's possible to perform alternative procedure to sufficient appropriate audit evidence. If the auditor is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, auditor shall determine the implications as follows. If the auditor concludes that possible effect of financial statement, the undeducted misstatement, if any, could be material but pervasive, auditor shall qualify his opinion. Okay. If the auditor concludes that the possible effect of financial statements of undeducted misstatement, if any, could be both material and pervasive, so the qualification of opinion could be inadequate and communicate the gravity of situation, auditor shall withdraw from the audit, whether the practical and possible under the applicable law and regulation. Withdraw from the audit. Possible withdraw from the audit. If withdraw from the audit before issuing audit report is not practicable or not possible, proclaim the opinion of financial statement. Give a disclaimer opinion. If the auditor withdraws as discussed above, before withdrawing, the matter shall communicate with those charged with governance and any matter regarding misstatement identified during the audit that may be given rise to modification of its opinion. Mm, PA Dhabu been appointed as auditor of MAP Technocraft to conduct the central audit. While conducting the audit, he came across difficulties which management could not explain to him properly, and therefore he decided to take service of Mr. J, an engineer consultant. Mr. J performed the work and submitted the details to CA Dabu, stating the specific procedure Mr. Dabu should follow to evaluate the adequacy of the work of Mr. J. So, using the work of an expert, auditor's expert, we say 620. First, we see whether Mr. J is going to perform the work. Is he qualified? What is his prior experience? Is his work is reliable? Is he would have independence over his work? What he is doing in this company? With anyone influence his work? Then, what is his conclusion? What is his computation? We should see with our audit evidence, compare it with it. Is it appropriate? We can take it. If there is a major difference from the auditor expert work and the management work, report to the management as the reason with them and find a conclusion. Using the work of an auditor's expert, auditors shall evaluate the adequacy of the auditor expert and the work of auditors purpose include the relevance and reliability of auditor's finding and conclusion of this consistent with the audit evidence. If the auditor's work involves with significant assumptions and method, the relevance and reasonableness of this assumption and method circumstances. If the auditor's work involves use of source data that's significant to the expert work, the relevant completeness and accuracy of the source data. If they determine that the work of the auditor's expert is not adequate for the auditor's purpose, the auditor shall agree with the expert on the nature and extent of the further work to be performed by the expert or perform the further audit procedure appropriate to the circumstances. Mm. PQ Limited is a listed entity, is in the business of manufacturing of special chemicals. The company has appointed CA Jazz as CFO of the company. CA Jazz is concerned about the compliance with the provision of laws and regulation and determine the reported amount in disclosure financial statement PQ Limited. According to CA Jazz, wants to implement such policy and procedure that is assigned to him in preventing reduction of non-compliance law and regulations. Helps CA to citing examples such policy and procedure. So SA 250 consideration laws and regulation in audit of financial statement. Everyone should follow laws and regulation. So what should be follow? First you see what is this company organization? What are the legal provision applicable you see? Then after take it, make a checklist. And every month, whenever doing the work, whether all these entries, all the financial data, example PF, how much 20 employees, bonus 8 employees, then ESI, industry unit, everyone should register after 10 employees. Get a list, follow properly filed, income tax properly filed, mm, advanced tax, seventh of being computed, and every quarterly it's been remitted. Just you are going to see, right? Advanced tax you're going to see. Then what? GST every month is properly filed. Regulations. Then what? Environmental regulation, what they following properly. BSc certifications on manufacturing. Yeah, they're doing properly or not. That's it. You should see this. The PQ Limited is a listed entity. CE just has an appointed as a CFO. PQ Limited is a business of manufacturing special chemical. CE just is concerned with complaints with the provision of law and regulations and wants to implement such policies and procedure that would assign him to prevention and reduction of non-compliance with law and regulations. CA Jazz is an specifically wanted examples type of policies and procedure that PQ Limited may implement so that the relevant law and regulations are properly complied. Such examples of policy and procedures are given in SA 250. Consideration of law and regulation and audit of financial statement. The following are the examples and types of policy and procedure PQ Limited may implement to assess the prevention and reduction of non-compliance with law and regulation. Monitoring the legal requirement, ensuring that operating procedures and designs and meet the requirement. Instituting and operating appropriate system of internal control. Developing, publishing, and following the code of conduct. Code of conduct. And ensuring employees to properly train and understand the code of conduct. Yeah, this is the rules. You need to follow this. Train the employees. Monitor the compliance with the code of conduct and acting appropriate to discipline the employees to fail the company. If anyone is not following the quality control, is not following the rules and regulation of code of conduct, punish them. Engage the legal advice to assess the monitoring legal requirement. Maintain the register of significant laws and regulation in which entities comply with the regulatory industry and record the complaint. Okay, that's it. PQ Limited was a listed entity, headquarters in Mumbai and having 15 branches all over India. The company is in the business of buying paddy growth from the farmers directly and processing to produce the final product and selling in domestic as well as international market. Okay. PQ Limited appointed four firms as chartered accountants of audit for the head office branches. Your firm is one of the firm. You are agreed that your firm will act in the principal auditor. The factor considered by you while accepting the position of principal auditor. I am the principal auditor. Other four auditors are there in the branches. What you do? You'll ask them to complete the audit and you provide a checklist and send to the principal auditor. And as per the report, they will fill the checklist and give you a report. If there are any inquiry in the checklist, you will again ask them. You can ask the audit working paper because it is a discretion of the auditor not to you to anyone. But as per the, if you want, working paper also can be claimed with the permission of the client. That is a loophole is there. So they will provide the working papers if required. Then what? By the opinion of the four auditors, as a principal auditor, you see what is the principal auditor transaction. Everything has been properly there. Accounting policies, what is any discriminancy has been reported by the branch auditors. If not, take into consider and as apply your professional standard and follow the audit procedure as per standard of auditing and have a professional skepticism throughout the audit. Use your professional judgment and come to a conclusion. That's it. SA 600 using the work of another auditor. He should consider the following factors before accepting the positions of the principal auditors. The materiality of the portion of financial information would be principal auditor. What is the materiality portion? Principal auditor's degree of knowledge and regarding the business of the companies. What is the business? How they do it? The risk of material misstatement in the financial information and components of auditor of other auditor. Mm. What is the misstatement they found? Performance of additional procedure as set out by the SA regarding the components audited by the other auditor, resulting in the principal auditor having significant participation in such audit. CA Harry is appointed statutory auditor of a delisted limited of financial year 2022. Mrs. Delist Limited is a listed entity as National Stock Exchange, and the financial statements are to drawn up in the compliance with India. Okay. Listed limited was certain fair value accounting estimate and complex financial instruments which are not traded in attractive active open market. C had his connection with the identification and assessment of the risk of material misstatement for accounting estimate. Guide him regarding the estimation work process adopted by the management in reference to the relevant standard of auditing. SA 540 auditing accounting estimates fast, including fair value accounting estimates related disclosure. SA 540 is very important because this estimate is being done. It should be reliable because even though they have a estimate, it has been understated means it's a problem. If it's overstated, na, it's very much a big problem. CA Harris shall obtain understanding of following order to provide basis of identification of assessment of the risk of material misstatement for accounting estimates. Estimate making process and adopted by the management include method including whether application of model used in making the accounting estimate. What is the method is being used? What is the relevant control being followed? Whether management has used expert. Have you done it or anyone has done it? Assumption underlying an accounting estimate. What is the estimate? What is the assumption backing this estimate? Whether that has been or ought to have been changed for a prior period of months for making the accounting estimate, if so, and why. Whether and so how management has assessed the effect of estimate uncertainty. If there is an estimate is uncertain, how you have controlled that estimate also need to be checked. CAB was appointed as auditor of SRT Limited for the financial year 2022. During the course of the planning the audit, CAB intended to apply the concept of materiality for the financial system as a whole. Okay, course of apply material consider materiality. Please guide him to respect other factors that is affect the identification of appropriate benchmark for the purpose. Benchmarks are adopted by a CAB, STR Limited is engaged in the manufacture and sale of air conditioner having regular profits, construction of large infrastructure projects incurring losses in the previous 2 years and due to pandemic. So what is the materiality going to do? Very good point. Using the benchmark determining materiality of financial statement as a whole. SA 320 determining materiality involves exercising a professional judgment. The percentage is often applying to choose a benchmark as starting point determine the materiality for financial statement as a whole. The factor may affect the identification of appropriate benchmark following elements of financial statements. Example assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, expenses. Whether there is an item means attention of the user of the particular entity, financial statement tends to be focused. For example, purpose of evaluating financial performance, users may tend to focus on profit, revenue, and net assets. Okay. The nature of entity, whether the entity is at the life cycle and the industry and economic environment in which entity operates. The entity ownership structure that way in finance. For example, the entity is financed solely by debt rather than equity. Users may put its emphasis on assets and climb on them, and that is the entity's owning. Relative validity of benchmark. What is the nature? What is the life cycle? What is the industry? What is the environment of the entity? We should see. Then who is the owner? What is the subsidiary? What is the holding? Everything should be neat. And what is the assets we have? A realistic volatility of benchmark. Each company has its own benchmark. We'll see matching them. We should see. We determine 5 lakhs benchmark here. There is a 2%. There is 3%. How you going to come to that point? Determining the percentage is applied by choosing benchmark involves exercise of professional judgment. Professional judgment is very important finding this percentage. There is a relationship between percentage and chosen benchmark, such as percentage applied to profit before tax for a continuing operations normally higher than the percentage applied to total revenue. After tax is very less, but if you're going to do in the total turnover, the percentage is totally different. In the case of SRT Limited is engaged in manufacture and sale of air conditioner and having a regular profit. Mr. C, the auditor may consider profit before tax earning. In the case of STR Limited, is engaged in the construction of a large infrastructure project and incurring loss and providing 2 financial years due to the pandemic CSE. Mr. SP, the auditor must consider revenue and gross profit as a benchmark. Gross profit, not net profit. There is net profit here, profit after tax and on here, net profit. Alternative, Mrs. B, the auditor may consider the criteria relevant for the audit of entities doing public utility project and programs. Total cost and net cost, expenses less revenue and expenditure less receipts. May be appropriate benchmark for particular program and project activity. Where entity has custody of the assets, an asset may be appropriate benchmark. See, Raj is an auditor of the multiplex cinema house. He has observed during the course of audit that its existence venue has undergone renovation. The auditorium was split into smaller ones and additional auditoriums are constructed. C. Raj has finalized the audit plan, audit program, wanted to recognize the same during the course of the audit. Discuss a few circumstances where the audit program would have been suitable altered by the auditor. Okay, they have changed the portion. How you change? Okay. The given case, multiplex cinema house, Mr. Raj observed that existing venue underground renovation good, being split into small ones and additional auditorium was constructed. Very good. Since E. Raj developed an audit program keeping a view of multiplex cinema house, but during the audit circumstances have changed significantly. Hence, C. Raj should suitably alter the audit programs. Given the follow below circumstances, what audit program should have the suitable alter. If the audit programs are designed for certain volume of turnover and subsequently the volume will substantially increase. Also, when there has been seen significant changes in accounting organization, procedures and person subsequent to audit procedure. So in this case, there is a volume of a turnover. There is a great volume is different, then you should change the audit. If the volume is different, you can change, you need to do different thing. But during the course of audit, it has been discovered that the internal control procedures were not so effective and assume the time the audit procedures are framed. Internal audit procedure. How is the internal control is the before the audit and after the audit we should see. Whether there has been extraordinary increase in amount of books debts and there's a value of stock has been compared to the previous year. So what is the debtors and what is a bad debts? What is a stock in previous and current year has been increased. If it's been increased, it changes the audit plan. When suspicions has arose during the course of audit, information has been arrived and assets of the company have been appropriated. Then you need to do the audit. You change the audit plan. You change the materiality level. It may be noted that audit plans related procedure program should be recognized as audit progress. Such a reconsideration has been based on the auditor's review of internal control with a preliminary evaluation thereof and the result of completion and substantial procedure. ABC Limited is engaged in the business of construction of infrastructure and housing project while preparing the financial statement of the year 31-23. Management has made various accounting estimate, auditing of accounting estimates and accounting and recomputation everything. An auditors as a necessary accounting estimate has been recognized, measure the disclosure in the financial statements and accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Auditor during the course of audit observed some changes, circumstances gives rise to the need of accounting estimate. Enquire the same what to management. Can you list down the circumstances change which will result in inquiry of the management? AC 540. Auditing of accounting estimate, including fair value accounting estimate related disclosure. The inquiry of management contains circumstances may, for example, entity has engaged in new type of transaction that may arise in accounting estimate. New type of transaction, higher turnover than the previous year. These are the things. Terms of transaction which gives rise to accounting estimate have changed. Previously, it is transaction as a 15 days period of credit. Now it is 45 days period line of credit. Different policies to be changed. Accounting policy related to accounting estimates have changed. As such, result of change in circumstances of applicable financial reporting framework. Totally accounting policies have changed. Inventory valuation is totally changed, and then or goodwill changed. Goodwill has been increased, or even we can say we have assets. We have shares. Shares are not listed. The computation has totally changed this year due to valuation rules. Mm. Due to new, yeah, there's a new regulations brought into by the government. We have a stock that government said so. This stock is to be it's banned in India. Exam Kutka, you have a industry. Oh, Kutka is banned totally in Tamil Nadu. Then what happened? This is the where we need to change the total estimate due to the rules and regulations. New conditions as events have occurred that may arise to need to new or revised accounting estimate. Likewise, during the audit, auditor may identify the transactions, events, and conditions and arising need to accounting estimates a management failed to identify. SA 315 deals with the circumstances where the auditor identify the risk of material misstatement that the management failed to identify and include determine whether there is significant deficiency in internal control with regard to the entity's risk assessment procedure. Thank you.